Welcome to my Yin Yoga class. If this is your first time in Yin Yoga, you might find that there's a lot of quiet time, and we definitely hold the poses between 3 and 5 minutes. So if you can hang in there, that would be great. If you feel any kind of sharp pain or something that just really feels uncomfortable and you know that there's no way that that's going to change, then please come out of the pose and just rest, and then we'll meet in the next pose. But what's wonderful about Yin Yoga is because we stay in the postures a little bit longer than regular poses, we really get to experience the change and transformation in the moment of what happens, because sometimes when we first get into it, there's a little bit of resistance in the body. But as we hang out a little bit longer, it just starts to open up the muscles and the tissues and really allows the chi flow to move through the body. And we can get really amazing results after one class. Sometimes I feel like I got a massage and I was just on my mat. So it's really a gift. So I always like to start just, if you can, you please sit with your legs crossed. And if not, legs straight is fine. It's really just to get some extension on the spine. And if you have any yoga props handy, I do have a couple of blocks and blankets and even a bolster. So you don't have to have them, but if they're nearby and you just want to grab them, this would be a good time to do that. Okay. And also household products work. So I've used towels, I've used books, regular pillows. So sometimes we get to be a little creative. Okay. So let's just take a moment and just kind of ground ourselves and come together through what I like to think of like just like through the ether, connecting through our breath. And we'll just take 3 slow cycles of breath. So an inhale and a full exhale. And we'll just do that a couple more times. Inhale and exhale. And we'll do that together just one more time. Inhale and exhale. Okay, here we are. Right, so for the first pose, we're going to do a wide-legged child's pose. So it won't be with the legs really close together. We're going to go a little bit wider. So if you do have a blanket or even a towel that you can put on your mat, I just find that my inner knees are a lot happier when they have a little bit of cushioning. So, but that's obviously up to you. So if you don't feel like you need it, please don't worry about it. Okay, but if you're going to use it, we're going to take the blanket a little wide on the mat, and then we'll just come here. So I've found some days in my practice, I need a little bit more support than others. So if you feel like you need a little extra support, you could put a blanket underneath. So this would be one option, or a block, under your sits bones. But if you don't feel like you need anything, we're just going to take the knees wide. So my big toes are touching. And then you would just come forward. And we'll just cross the arms and let our forehead rest either on our arm or on the mat. And when you practice Yin Yoga, what you'll start to experience is that there's different phases of the pose. So the first phase might feel just like a little tight because the body is just trying to figure out actually what we want it to do. And then after a while, as it relaxes and recognizes that it's safe, then it starts to open up. So just let's hang in here for a little bit. And if at any time, as I said in the beginning, if you feel like you need to come out of the pose and just take a break, then please feel free to do that. But what I found, so when I first started doing this pose, it was unfamiliar, to say the least, especially staying in it so long. So it took me a while to recognize, the benefits. Like after a while, my legs can go a little wider. My spine can extend a little further out. And I can just begin to really relax and enjoy the posture. And with the arms extended forward, my shoulders open. And just let your breath come into balance. So we're inhaling and exhaling the same. And we breathe down into the hips. We breathe into the spine and the back. Little by little, you might feel that even your chest begins to drop a little bit more. And that there finally comes a moment where we just really settle in the pose. And just allow all this wonderful energy to flow through us without any obstructions. And again, this is, it's a practice of surrender, but I like to call it alert surrender because we're not lost. We're still very present to each breath and each moment. So as much as you can, just keep coming back to the moment. And sometimes the easiest way to do that is simply just to follow the breath, because we can only breathe in the present. Right? We can't breathe for the past and we can't breathe in the future. So if you find that your mind is wandering, all you have to do to bring it back is just pay attention to your breath. Okay, so we'll just be here another minute or so. Keep dissolving into the pose. Opening and stretching the inner thighs and the hips. Maybe for these last few seconds, being able to take the knees out even a ½ inch more. And we'll take 5 more breaths here. And feel that wonderful expansion and contraction of your rib cage. And then when you're ready to come back, just rest your hands on the floor and gently come back. And we don't want to drag our knees together, so we're going to lift one knee at a time and bring them in close. And then let's just take 3 breaths together in child's pose with the knees together. So maybe just let the arms rest by your side. Completely let the back round. 3 breaths here. And then we'll take our time and slowly roll up. Ah, hello. All right. So if you did place a blanket or a towel on your mat, we're just going to move it off to the side. And then we'll meet on our belly. So let's go ahead and come down to the belly. We're going to be in this really gentle but kind of invigorating and back bend. It's called Sphinx pose. So just if you can, so some people have some preferences. For this one, I would suggest bringing the hands together just for a different experience. But if you feel more comfortable, I know most of us usually do a Sphinx pose with the hands apart, then please feel free to do that. Okay? Now the elbows are a little bit forward of your shoulders, because if elbows are too far back, then we tend to round too much. I know I'm totally exaggerating, but we tend to round and drop the chest. So I'm just going to bring the arms forward and possibly the hands together. We'll take the legs a little bit wider than our hips. And the idea in these postures is that we're completely soft and open. But sometimes we need a little bit of support in the lower back. So if that's the case, it's okay to engage the glutes a little bit. We just don't want like a stiff lower body, right? So we still want to feel that kind of flow through the body. So whenever you're ready, we're just going to come into the pose. We're going to hang out here for a few minutes. I won't say how long. But if at any time, so sometimes the neck gets a little cranky, just kind of holding itself in the same position, holding the head in the same position. So if you need to, every once in a while, just drop your head and take a few breaths just to stretch the neck. Or if you feel like you need to lift the head instead a little bit, then we lift the chin slightly. And then we can all just meet back in a more neutral position. And this pose is a little active just out of necessity, just because of the position of the arms. But I can feel that my shoulders and arm bones kind of settle into each other. Right, so my shoulders settle back, my arms are holding me. And you can do this with your eyes open or closed. And there's a lot of places where we can direct our attention, but I'll encourage you, at least at first, just direct your attention to where you feel the back bend. So we're just bringing some awareness into the back body. And then you might feel a little bit more tangible experience of the rib cage here, right? So as we inhale, the belly moves towards the floor and the rib cage really expands. And then as we exhale, we feel the rib cage relax as the belly moves away from the floor. And if you'd like, if you know Ujjayi Pranayama, that's a wonderful breath to settle the mind in, right? Just to hear the sound of your energy and your breath. And yoga teaches us to be okay with the pairs of opposites, with duality, to keep this kind of neutral mind. So I find that Yin Yoga helps me to cultivate this ability, because as my body settles and gets quiet, sometimes the chatter in my mind becomes more obvious. So then I just get to watch it like a play. And I get to watch the thoughts rise and the thoughts fall, the thoughts change. But I start to recognize that there's a part of me that is just observing the action, so that I don't have to get wrapped up in the action. Remember, if at any time your neck starts to feel a little tense, maybe just drop your head for a moment and take a couple breaths there. And then we can bring our head back to center whenever you're ready. So just the last few seconds here. Please take 5 more breaths. And when you've taken them, you're just going to open the elbows out and cross your hands and just let your head rest. And if for any reason your lower back is a little cranky, you can bend the knees and just gently let the feet drop from side to side like a very gentle window wipers. And then we'll lower our feet again. Bring your hands next to your chest and we'll push all the way up. Okay? And if you feel for any reason like you just need a little cat and cow movement, please feel free to do that before we move into our next pose. And then we'll just do one more of those. Alrighty. So the next one, I know for many of us it's pigeon pose, but in Yin Yoga we call this Swan pose. And we'll start with the right knee forward first. So go ahead and bring your right knee behind your right wrist. And then we'll move the foot out to the left side of the mat as much as is comfortable for us today. And I'll ask you just to look back at your left leg and make sure it's in line with your body, just to keep the hip and the lower back happy. And if your sit bones are really high, you might want to tuck something underneath, like maybe a blanket or even a block. And then we'll move, so the position of the front leg will dictate how much stretch you're getting. If you want less stretch, then the foot comes back a little bit more, but if you want more, then you bring the foot forward a little bit more. So you have total control of that. And we might find that for a few minutes, so I'll start our timer, for a few minutes where you just need to stay up on the hands, right? Maybe the first few seconds or first minute. And then you might find that you can lower to the elbows. And I'm just going to move back a little bit. Or you might be okay with completely coming down. Right? So what's wonderful about yoga is it really can be customized to your need, right? To your body. And we recognize every time we come to the mat that it's not like it's a different body, but the body's in a different mood. We can put it that way, right? So maybe what we did yesterday, we might have to switch around a little bit today. So be in a place where you can be steady. So in yoga we call this sthita. And at ease, so sukha. And you'll know you're in that place because the breath is relaxed and the mind is relaxed. So let's look for that. Right? A relaxed breath and a relaxed mind. And then we'll settle into the pose. And wherever you're feeling the resistance, right, see if you can just hang out there. And sometimes visualizations are very helpful. So I visualize my exhale moving into that space and breaking up the blockage, right? Breaking up the tension. So keep settling into the pose. Again, you might find that where you need it to be a little bit higher now as we hang out in the pose, we can drop into it a little bit deeper. Maybe you can stretch the left leg back a little bit more. So one thing that occurred to me as we're holding the postures, if I get a little quiet, I promise you I am still here. Okay, I have not disappeared. But there is a little bit of quiet time in Yin Yoga practice. Okay, so we have to get comfortable with that as well. Okay, so just a few more breaths, please. And let's do about 5 more breaths here. Last 2, please. All right. We made it. Okay, so we're going to move from this pose into another pose. So let's just hang here for a moment, and we'll come up on the hands, and then I'll ask you to just slide your left knee behind the right. Okay? And then we'll sit between the feet. So we're going to do our best to stack our legs. Now, something that I found helpful with this, sometimes it's not comfortable to just sit flat on the floor, is you could put a block or just something to elevate you a little bit. So that might be helpful if this is just not working for you today. And this is called Shoelace pose. And then we'll again come forward, maybe on the hands. So this is a place sometimes where, just in the beginning at least, and again I'm just using the timer so I don't get lost here, okay? That sometimes blocks help for the first minute or so. And then when the body has warmed up and opened up, then possibly you can remove the blocks and just rest your hands or arms down. Okay, last few breaths, please. This is really nice because the top leg is supporting your chest and your belly. And anytime the torso and the legs are together, it really gives a wonderful massage to the organs and the intestines, and just increases circulation and blood flow to those areas. Just a few more breaths. Last few. Please take 5 more breaths here. And then when you're done, let's come up slowly. Hello. All right. And then if you can, just keep the legs just a little bit longer. We're going to place a block, or if you don't, a block or 2, maybe you don't need one at all, on the left side. And then we'll rest our arm down and bring the right arm up and over. And this is such a wonderful invitation for this whole right side now to open. And I actually just let my arm rest on my head. So I'm going to move over a little bit. And I just let it rest. And some of you might be open enough or just want to deepen the stretch a little bit. So you could just rest your arm directly on the ground. And just feel the wonderful opening along the right side of the muscles, the skin, the right ribs, the right lung. This is so wonderful. Just a few more breaths here. Excellent. Last 3 breaths. Maybe even bending a little bit deeper. And then please take your time and come on up. Now we're going to straighten the bottom leg. And then we'll just go forward for a moment. And this is half shoelace pose. And you might find some feedback, to say the least, from your left hamstring or the calf or anywhere else on the back of that leg. Okay, please take a few more moments here. You could also use something under the arms. So the longer I practice is the more I get to learn and teach. So not just practice, but also teach. Is modifications are so important because sometimes we compare ourselves to another student or to something we've seen in a magazine or online or whatever it is. And we really have to honor where we are. We're traveling in this body, right, for this lifetime. It's the only one we've got. So we really have to honor where it is. So if today you need blocks, then we need blocks. You know, tomorrow's a different day, or next year is different. So just be present again to where we find that sthita, steadiness, and sukha, ease. Last few moments. And you might find that a lot has already shifted in your body. Last 5 breaths. I don't know how you're feeling right now, but I can really feel the muscles on each side of my spine just really opening because my front body is being supported by my leg. And then we'll take our time and come all the way up. And just rest your hands on your knee for a moment, close your eyes. And just experience how the body feels after those poses we just did. And then once you open your eyes, please rest your right foot on the mat. Now you're welcome to keep the left leg straight if you need to, But if you could, you would just bend your knee. And then a nice easy twist. So I just kind of like to hold my leg, but you could also do it with the elbow outside, so that's fine. And we're just going to go into this nice twist. We'll rest the right hand behind us. And make sure that you're really twisting from the spine, meaning we're just not turning our head, but we're really turning the spine. And then after the initial feeling of having to activate and engage things, now we can begin to relax and be still. You can keep your arm on your leg, or again, as I said, the elbow to the outside. I just find that with my elbow, I tend to be a little pushy. So if you're in the mood to be a little pushy, then have your elbow out. If you're more feeling kind of like wanting to hug in, then just hold on to the leg. Last few breaths here. Alrighty. And then please turn your head forward first and gently come out of the twist. Nice. Right. So you can either do a few cat-cows again if you'd like, or maybe just one downward dog. Well, it might be two. And we'll just stretch out for a moment. Okay. So we'll meet back down on the mat if you're in downward dog. And I'll ask you this time to bring your left knee forward. So we're going to start the whole cycle over, but from on the left side. Okay? So left knee forward. Again, you move your foot over to the right side of the mat as much as possible. And then just take a peek at your back leg. And I actually tuck my back toes under and then stretch the right leg back, just to help me drop the hips a little bit more. And then again, you can have your hands on the ground for a while or for the whole time. You could come down to the elbows. Or at some point, you might be able to lie all the way down. And then be open to what this side has to say to you. So today this side just feels like it's holding in a different place than my right side did. So I kind of try and stay alert to where sensation is. Right? So instead of coming in with a certain expectation, I try and keep this kind of beginner's mind and curiosity. Right? Where am I feeling this today? On this side. Right? And it might not even be the bent leg side. It might be the other side, like around the hip flexor or deep in the belly. It might be along the spine. So just staying open to what is happening. And see if you can kind of melt into swan pose a little bit more. Right? You might be able to take your right leg back a little further, or you might be able to bring the spine forward a little bit more. Or perhaps you started on your elbows. And then you move them forward a little bit and drop deeper into the pose. And we've just got a few breaths left here. So just hang out. Don't run at the first sign of trouble or discomfort. Something I've had to learn through the years. And just take 5 more breaths. Excellent. And then when you're ready, just walk your hands back, please. Okay, we're gonna bring the back leg in, and like we did before, we'll try and slide the back knee right behind the front knee, and then sit between the feet. Okay. And what we call shoelace pose in Yin Yoga. And then from here, we'll come forward again. And again, I'll set our timer so that both sides get some even attention. Okay. So again, just the hands. Maybe we bring in our blocks or our books to rest our arms on. So make this yours. Last few breaths. Sorry, it's actually a couple minutes. Okay, a couple minutes here. Last few breaths. Keep settling in. And let's see if we can get our deepest just for these last few seconds. All right. Please go ahead and take your time and roll up. Hello. Then we'll rest. Maybe we'll start with a block on the right side and rest your right arm down. And then we'll bring the left arm up. Move over a little bit. Left arm up and over the left ear. And you can stay the whole time right here, right? Maybe even resting the arm on the head. So it's not just for hats. It can be for your arm. Right? And after a while, maybe you can drop the arm down. So that's definitely going to be a personal preference. And then we get this experience of the opening now along the left side. So the way I'm feeling it here is starting from my left hip up through the waist, my rib cage, my armpit, even my tricep and shoulder is getting this invitation to open. It feels so juicy, so inviting. And even here, if at any time your neck gets tired, you can change the position of your head, maybe looking down. Perhaps you need to look up a little bit, right? So depending on what your needs are. We're almost there. Maybe this bottom arm can move out a little bit further even. Please take 5 more breaths. And then we'll find our way very gently back up. We'll stretch the bottom leg forward and then come into the forward bend. There's a lot happening in the hips. And we're working on these this liver channel today, which is awesome because it really helps us to balance our emotions. So there's not these kind of highs and lows or irritability or outbursts of anger, but this kind of steadiness, as we move through our day and hopefully through our life. And breathing into the back body. You might find that the arms start close, but gradually we move them forward. I find that in forward bends, exhaling a little bit longer helps me deepen the pose. So if you're having a lot of resistance, try just moving a little deeper with your exhales. And so we just let the exhale be a little longer. Last few breaths. And then take your time, use your hands, and gently push yourself up. And then we'll rest the left foot on the floor. And like we did the last time, you're welcome to keep the bottom leg straight or just fold it underneath. Decide what you'd like to do with the right arm, whether to hug the knee or bring the elbow to the outside. And then we'll simply twist. And I know this is a little more active than what we've been doing, but it's kind of a nice balance since everything has been so quieting and passive. Make sure you're turning from the spine and not your head. Just another few breaths here. We're almost there. Last 4 breaths. And then please turn your head forward, come back and uncross your legs. Maybe point and flex your feet a few times. If you feel like you just need a little stretch in cat and cow, do that. I'm going to take one more stretch in downward facing dog. So you're welcome to join me. Maybe pedal the legs a few times. This downward dog might feel different from the first one if you did one before. And then we'll go ahead and meet back on our seat. All right. If you need a little help, so we're going to do what we call square pose in Yin Yoga. Some of us know this as the log, so we're going to try and stack the legs. But sometimes it helps to sit up a little bit higher. So feel free to sit on something if you need it, okay? And if stacking the legs bothers your hips or your knees for any reason, then of course we don't have to do the stacking. We could do a simple cross-legged position. So again, it's going to depend on where you are today, okay? All right, so place one leg on top of the other. And I'm doing my best to have my foot over my knee and the opposite foot under the knee, right? But wherever you are is the perfect place. And then if there's a lot of space, like something like this, right? A lot of space between your foot and your knee, you might want to place something there to support it. So that's just a little help I can offer you. Then from here, again, we can start on our hands and stay on our hands. We might be able to come down to the elbows. Or some people just like to rest on their legs. So again, it's wherever you need to be today. And the feet can be relaxed. Some people feel like if their feet are a little more flexed, then any little twinges in the knee go away. So you can try both ways, with the feet relaxed or a little more active. And if you felt like coming down and you were close, right, you could use a block on your forehead. So for some reason today, this feels really nice. So feel free to experiment. Keep softening. If you're up higher on the block, you might find that you can drop down a little bit deeper. Last few breaths here. And then please take your time and come up. Let's uncross the legs. I'm going to lean back a little bit and just shake the legs out. Okay, and then we'll try the other side. Alrighty. So either opposite leg in front or opposite leg stacked. And we'll go for this again. Okay. All right, so hands, maybe just leaning against the legs, or perhaps resting your forehead on a block. And we'll breathe down into the hips, into the inner thighs. I guess I'm revealing the places that feel a little more closed for me, because those are the places I'm breathing into, but you might need to breathe into somewhere else. And if you have the block high, you might find that you can lower the block. Take 5 more breaths. When you've completed those, no rush. We're going to come all the way up, uncross the legs, shake them out a little bit. Hello. Alrighty. And so we're going to do, just for maybe just a couple minutes, a lying down butterfly pose. Some of us know this as Supta Baddha Konasana. And I'm just going to turn around. Then we'll bring our feet together. So some people like a little, like some support under the legs. So please feel free to use that if you need to use the blocks under your legs. And the feet aren't really close, so we're going to take them forward a little bit so it's a bigger diamond. Then we'll roll the shoulders back. Okay. Alrighty. Just lie down for a couple minutes. And you might find that this pose feels a little bit more open because of all the work, all the previous work we've done. And I like to rest my hands on my belly. And just feel the natural rise and fall of the belly. And we'll just take a few more breaths here. Relax your tongue and your jaw. And then take your time, please, as you stretch out one leg at a time. And let's take a few moments in shavasana. And you're welcome to keep your hands on your abdomen, or you could rest your arms by your side. And feel your head relax. Feel your shoulders let go. And the arms and hands relax. Feel your back release to the earth. Relax your right and left leg, your heels and your feet. And just allow the legs to roll out the way that they feel the most natural. Keep letting go. And just know that you're inhaling the right amount and exhaling the right amount perfectly. Your body breathes in just enough, and it exhales and lets go just enough. And we inhale love and exhale fear. We inhale love and exhale judgment. We inhale love and exhale doubt. And please feel free to stay here as long as you wish. But if you felt ready to come up, you'd want to bend your knees, roll to your side slowly, and then use your hands to gently push yourself back up. And whether you're lying down or you're sitting up, please rest one hand on your belly, one hand on your heart, and let's just take a moment of gratitude. What are you grateful for today? I thank you so much for joining me. I wish you a beautiful and blessed Wednesday and happy spring, happy equinox. Om Shanti. Thank you for joining me. Have a great night.